Sounds good. My name is Mike Nugent. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I went to Centerville High School, and I was a freshman at Ohio State in 2001. I was there from 2001 to 2004. I battled for the kicking job. In 2001, I split the duties with another guy, and then kind of won the battle in the spring before the sophomore season, and which kind of almost was kind of my launch to, hopefully, luckily, just the rest of my career. I felt like I got really comfortable, started kicking better, started making more field goals, and just getting used to being a kid on my own, out of the house, living on campus, and things like that. And luckily, just felt very comfortable with the situation I was in at Ohio State, and it was one of those things. I was very lucky. I played for somebody who really took a lot of pride in, how would you describe it? Not the flashy, showy offense in football, just whatever it takes to win football games.
Let's get it done, yeah.
Yeah, in any way. And luckily that includes kicking a lot of field goals. So that's where I was a kicker at Ohio State during a great time.
Right. Well, let's take a step back, because you said so Dayton, Centerville, you're about an hour away, if that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have an idea. Did you go to a few games when you were in school?
I did. Yeah. I grew up going to a few games. And then when I started getting recruited, luckily got to go to a few more, especially like my junior, senior year.
Okay. So now as we're moving in, this is the question I ask everybody. Move-in day. Now, obviously, football players come in a couple of days or a couple of weeks earlier than the rest of the students. But as a kicker, is that kind of like you look around going, what's going on here?
It was exactly that, but also like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't know if I belong here. And it was kind of, we had kind of two move-in days. So you have your move-in day into the hotel, training camp, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, move into your dorm. So yeah, that was one of those things where I would see some of my teammates. I'm like, I'm just, I'm a little older for my grade. So I was like, I'm this 19-year-old kid. I'm playing with men
right
now. This is going to take a lot of work. And I want to be able to show these guys that I just deserve to be on the same playing field as they do. And it took me a while. It took me at least my first year to get to that point. But yeah, you're exactly right. It was intimidating. And then on top of that, to step into a stadium with that many fans. So. And
the difference when the first time you're on the field as a player as opposed to being there as a fan, what's going through your head at that point?
Kind of just mostly the things that you would think, just the pressure of performing. You get out there and think like, okay, I was brought here to do a job, and there are high expectations out of, there's 85 scholarships. It sounds like a lot, but it's just, if you sit down with the coach, there's not that many of them. They wish if they had 500 scholarships, they'd use every single one. So I felt like I was brought in there to do a job, and you get up there, and the first thing you start thinking is, you have a fear of failure. You start thinking like, what if I don't belong here? What if this isn't for me? And if you can overcome that and just realize like, okay, I was brought here for a reason. Somebody recognized that I can help this team out and be an asset here. And, I feel like still to this day, hopefully I did that for Ohio State.
Well, and if we'll jump real forward here, then jump back. I think from part of your pro career is, hey, I'm going to land on my feet. I'm going to come in and do what I have to do. It may not always be perfect. It may sometimes be perfect. The situation may not be great, but this is what I do, and I'm going to do it as well as I possibly can. And I think maybe that's what you get from that.
Yeah, especially like when you say, I want to be perfect. It's one of those things when you think about, I don't know, an O lineman or a linebacker, their definition of perfect might be totally different. Like a kicker is like, it either goes in or it doesn't.
Right.
Even kickoffs are a little bit different, but it's still a good kickoff or a bad kickoff. It's like yes and no. It is so like different ends of the spectrum. So you get to a point where you're like, okay, if I'm out here by myself, I can go 100 for 100 and on a windy, nasty, rainy day, but can I do it when it counts? And I feel like that's guys like Tiger Woods. People are like, what is this guy doing different than everybody else? Like he can do it when it matters. And I don't want to single him out, but I mean, so many, it's like, there's so many consistent guys at the top. It's because they're doing it when it counts. And kickers are the same way. The guys that have been more successful are just they come out on top when the stakes are at their highest.
And I look at, say, the year that, if you remember, Gary Anderson had with the Vikings a few years ago.
Definitely.
And perfect season until one kick.
Yeah.
Now, we look at it like, oh, I can't believe he missed that. And I don't know how you look at it. It's like, he missed one kick. It may have been the kick, but he missed one kick all season. That's a pretty good season.
You know what? That's an amazing attitude to have. But I can tell you, myself, maybe I don't want to put words in his mouth, but
right.
Even as the kicker, you look back and be like, oh, I mean, what happened? I had such a great year. Why is everyone just giving me such a hard time? But you still in the back of your mind are thinking about that miss that you could,
right.
You would give away 3 misses during the season.
Right.
Actually, you'd give away 10
right.
if they didn't really matter as much to get that one kick back. So that's the tough part about being a kicker is if you can have short-term memory, that's great. But I don't know a lot of people who do. So that makes it tough.
Well, I think maybe it's because you don't have a chance to, break up a pass or make a block or do something else that can be graded differently. What you see is what you do.
Especially especially going out there and you hit one kick in the middle of the first quarter, you might have a game winner in 3.5 hours. That's a tough part about it. You might get lucky and kick 12 kicks that game. With field goals, extra points, and kickoffs, you might go out on the field a lot. But I've had games before. I went to Green Bay probably like 2006, something like that. And I think I had like 1 or 2 kicks the whole day, like a short field goal and 2 kickoffs. It was a freezing cold day, so I couldn't show much of what I had. But I sat there, I'm like, came all the way. Now, all that mattered, we came home with a win. But I was just like, I came all the way out here and I kicked like 2 balls.
I could have stayed on the bus, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Would anybody really miss me if I wasn't here today?
I ask myself that question every day, and so far, I'm not too sure about the answer to that. So, all right, so we're getting through. We've become the guy, and we're winning awards, the Lou Groza Award. We're doing all that. And when does it set in that, hey, I'm Mike Nugent?
I think kind of my entire life, or I guess my entire career as a kicker, has always kind of been an evolution into the next step. When I grew up, a bunch of my friends played football, but I played soccer, and obviously soccer and football are in the fall. Well, in Ohio they are, so I couldn't do both. But one year I was like, I want to play football. And I knew I kicked with my brother in the backyard almost every day. Like we would play soccer, then we'd kick field goals. It was just something we were always like, well, we're pretty decent at this. Maybe we could try it, play for the 6th grade team. So like I played 6th grade and 8th grade, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty decent at this. Maybe I can do it in high school. Then high school, it started evolving even more and just getting better and better and stronger. And I'm like, man, maybe I can go play in college. Like this would be amazing. So I got to that point where I go to college, and then college goes along. And after my freshman year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work as hard as it takes to be successful at this. But where I'm at right now, I'm going to play for 3 more years and football might end for me. Right. Then I got to a point where I started kicking better, getting better. And the same thing, getting stronger, definitely getting stronger mentally and more confident in myself. And then I got to a point where like, maybe I could make a career out of this. And basically just brought me to the end of my senior year, having a good solid year, and winning the Lou Groza Award was kind of my main goal when I started kicking. When I found out what the Groza Award was in, I think maybe 8th grade, and winning that was just incredible. I really enjoyed sharing that with my family. And but even before that, maybe like my sophomore year, if I had to pinpoint a time, I really started hitting the ball well in the spring of my freshman year after my freshman season, and started thinking, okay, I'm starting to pick this up. I'm starting to like Columbus. I like college. I'm getting used to this. And then just got to a point where I felt comfortable. I'm like, okay, keep making kicks, and maybe someone will pay you to do this.
Yeah. Now, when in the course of a day, most people don't know what kickers go through. I'm one of them. How many kicks do you actually attempt during a normal day? Not right now, but a normal practice session.
Normal practice day. So if you're just in the off season, like right now, I've been kicking for about 2 months because I'm still a little back and forth. I'm not ready to stop playing. So I just want to be ready to go no matter what happens, whether I decide to not play or the season doesn't happen, whatever it may be. So I would, in the off season, I'll go out maybe 2 days a week. I'm going out 3 days a week right now. I'll go out and my number is about 36 to 40 kicks. That's, I would say that's like on a scale of, if you would say like a heavy day in the weight room, like if you did a 1 to 10 and 10 is like you're collapsing when you fall out of the weight room, I'd say 40 balls is like a seven and a half. And so that's most of the off season. Then you start kicking off as the off season progresses, but a good solid day during training camp is about that. Anywhere from maybe 25 would be a low day and maybe 45 would be a real heavy day. And then, but it's all, I would always try to strengthen up and get my stamina going for training camp because I would kick a lot in training camp. And then during the season, usually only kick 2 days a week, maybe Wednesday, Friday or Wednesday, Thursday. And then you have the game on Sunday. But the thing is about the game, you don't really realize it, but you kick warming up, then you warm up again with the snap and a hold.
Right.
Then you hit kickoffs. Then you kick maybe 2 or 3 balls every series into the net. So I kind of figured out you kick almost anywhere from 80 to about 120 balls on game day. Yeah, 120 might be a lot, but anywhere from, we'll call it maybe like 70 to 100 is a pretty normal game, day. Because especially if, let's say you have 11 series on offense and you kick 3 balls. I mean, there's 33 alone right there.
Right.
And you might have hit, call it 25 to 35 warming up. So it starts that up, and maybe you could have anywhere from 1 to 12 in the game itself. So it really adds up.
And that all happens kind of behind the scenes where we don't see it until they put the camera on you because, we're getting ready to go to 4th down, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So it's that. See, those are the kind of things they're thinking, okay, you guys really are working out a lot. It just doesn't appear that way to us.
It's, it's funny. You always hear, just seeing movies or a TV show, like the kicker's the kind of the odd man out, but it's really, honestly, it's not the reality, especially if, as the competition grows, from middle school to high school to college to the NFL, especially, everyone has, as long as you're the kind of person that deserves everyone's, like, for lack of better terms, like love and respect from your teammates. Like if you're the kind of guy that just doesn't surround yourself with good people and you just have a bad attitude, no one's going to cheer for you.
Right.
But I've just found out in my entire career, no matter the background or the position or the age of the guy I've been around, like in the NFL, everyone just knows, like, hey, I just want to do well individually. And if I do well individually, it's going to basically throw my hat in the ring of a great football team and be one little part of everyone doing everything together. Right. So I've just found that over the years, it's even gotten stronger, but guys just really appreciate having a good, solid kicker because these games just get so close. It's unbelievable. And name one great football team or even good playoff team that the kicker and the punter had a bad year. Like
right.
It doesn't, they kind of go hand in hand. Like if you're in the first round of the playoffs, your kicker did a good job. Like it's, unless you just have a team that your offense just cannot be stopped. Right. Your defense gives up no yards, so.
You never have to punt, right?
I'm not saying more credit is deserved at all. It's just,
but it's all part of the team, right?
Yeah. Everyone works together. And when you go out for a kick, I will say that I've had a couple guys tell me, they're like, I wish I had your job all week except for Sunday at 1 o'clock. Because they'll see you, you're not watching as much film, you're not running as many plays, but it's like, okay, when it counts, like when you need to hit that 12-foot putt,
right?
That's the one everyone's like, I'll let somebody else hit that putt. But that's why we're out there.
Now, the relationship that this is what we see from outside, but maybe it's not true, is that, okay, I've got the holder, I've got the snapper, and the holder's usually the punter, and we spend most of the day together, or is it's just kind of mixed up? Because you'll see offensive guys hang out with defensive guys, but I don't know whether it works out that, hey, I'm the long snapper, and I'm going to go hang out with the linebackers. I mean, is it kind of a tight-knit unit that way?
It really is, yeah. I mean, you're spending pretty much the entire day together because the kicker, the punter, and the long snapper, I mean, you have literally the exact same schedule. odds are you're probably going to the same meetings, give or take here and there. And then you'll have the same time off. So it's really a good way to get to know guys. I just remember a few years ago, I filled in for Dallas, for Dan Bailey in Dallas, and just hanging out with those guys. There was a lot of free time because practices, we came in for meetings really early. So we had a few hours just to kind of time to kill. We had no meetings, nothing. So we would work out together, get in the hot tub or contrast in the cold tub, things like that, and then go out to practice. And even out in practice, you're doing everything together. So you really spend a lot of time together and you get to know those guys really well.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that's the unit that has to be forged together. As you said, if you don't have a good season, the team doesn't have a good season. So, okay.
Yeah, and it really does add up that way.
Now, not to mention your age or anything, but you've been in the league for a while. All right. So is it weird when you see Ohio State players coming in that, were 10 years old when you started at Ohio State, or is it like, hey, OHIO, we're going to put everybody together?
Well, you know what? It's a little odd when you go to a team. So like this year, I just finished my 15th season, and I hate to even admit this, there will be guys on the team that I actually didn't even know went to Ohio State. And
right.
That's pure honesty. It's not that I didn't pay attention or didn't care. It's just like when you're still, I feel like
you're busy.
Yeah. When you're still playing, you can only watch so much Ohio State football. A lot of people are like, oh, how the Buckeyes going to be this year? And I'm just like, well, I know how the Bengals are going to do. I know how Oakland's going to be, but and you really, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, did you see that kickoff return yesterday? I'm like, I was flying to Tampa,
right,
from Oakland, or Miami from Oakland, so I missed the entire game. So it's one of those things. I try to do a good job of looking at the roster, see who's there, see guys, and I'm sure there's been people who would be like, you didn't know he was on your team? I'm like, that's something when when I'm done playing, I'll pay closer attention to.
Well, I think that's, the thing that I'm running across is that, in your professional career, it's not that you are not a fan, but you've graduated. And I think we've all done that to a certain respect. And then, as I was talking to a Butler Benote the other day, it's like, then when I was done, it all floods together. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how crazy you people really are. And we are insane, so you're in the middle of the bubble right now, but when you finally hang them up, you're going to realize, wow, these people are nuts, but in a good way. I call us the most obnoxious fans in the world, but good obnoxious.
Yeah,
so.
Like nobody wants to come and play here, kind of.
Right, exactly. Right.
Like, oh, we got to go back to Ohio State this year. Like that's you want to be on the Ohio State side of that. And I actually just moved back to Upper Arlington, so I live right down the street. So
now, where do you? I hate to add this pandemic thing, but do they? And I don't want to. Don't answer anything that you can't answer. But are they communicating with you what the plan is as far as teams, practices, anything at all? Or is it just like you're up in the air like everybody else?
You know what? It's kind of both. It's up in the air, but myself being a free agent right now, I don't have any coaches emailing me or calling me saying, okay, this is what we need to take care of. So, and it's something I've been doing on my own for the past 17, 18, 19. So this is my 4th year of that. And so it's, as a veteran, it's not too difficult to know what needs to be done and to get my body in shape and be ready to go. But you do get kind of the general emails from the NFLPA, and you see things from the NFL and just stuff I catch up on maybe on Instagram or Twitter, things like that. But it's really one of those things I feel like kind of like everybody just doesn't know any sort of timeline. So you can't pinpoint anything. You want to say like, yep, we're definitely having a season. We're ready to go. But there's times you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, the season's so far away. But then you sit there also and you're like, it's not far away at all.
Closer, yeah.
Especially with a pandemic like this, I have a hard time seeing everything going back to normal until we have a vaccine.
Right.
At the end of the day, keep people safe. I know it's a multi-billion-dollar business, but it's not worth people losing their
Right.
lives.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And I think that's the way most of us, I hope, are looking at it. It's like, okay, just go inside, shut up, and wait, because
yeah,
that's about all we can do. Yeah.
yeah.
So now, when you get back for the teams in general, is it something where you can say, hey, we got a game next week, I'm ready to go, or we've got preseason, or how long does it really take to get ready to go?
It's hard to ask a kicker that question because, like, last year, for example, I didn't go to training camp or didn't get invited to training camp or anything. I got called week 5, like Wednesday of week 5, Tuesday of week 5, and practiced with New England Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Actually, no, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then a game in Washington on Sunday. So it's one thing as a kicker. It's one of those things not even so much a kicker. Let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
It's more of I've noticed about the NFL. At the end of the day, you can always just say like, hey, if you want to make a living doing this, you got to work for it and you have to be ready to go. If I show up to kick for a team and I pull my hamstring kicking, yeah, that's just terrible luck on my part. But also there's got to be something to it that says like, okay, I'm just not in shape to play a game right now.
Right. Right.
And so I think it's in the NFL, it's expected like, hey, I expect you to come in, be fully ready to go. Obviously, you can't hit, you can't really run plays together, but it's like I expect you to know the offense, know the defense, know whatever special teams, whatever plays you have, because they can send that to everybody and be in
Right.
shape. Those are the two main things coaches are like, this is what we expect of you. Be in shape and be ready to go and know what you're doing. Everything else just kind of gets figured out. So
We'll gel as we go, right?
yeah, I do kind of see, obviously for a kicker, speaking for myself, I feel like preseason games, a lot of people say like, oh, we have these preseason games, but guys don't play much. Like as a kicker, it's always for us been a 20 game season because
Right.
weeks 1 through 4 in the preseason, unless you have another kicker maybe going back and forth, you're playing 4 full games normally. And I'm not arguing that I work harder or do more than anybody on the field. I would actually argue against that idea. Like the kicker works extremely hard, but like I said, we're not watching film. We're not hitting. We're not
Right.
studying tape. Like I have so much like just unbelievable respect for everybody on the field. But I can only really speak for the kicker saying, I feel like you could go out. The reason I was talking about New England is because I didn't practice all off season, didn't do anything with any teams. And I got signed and played a game in like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just most about just be ready to go when your name is called.
Well, now that kind of gets us to if we get to that point, and I didn't really plan on getting into this, but, and again, from a kicker's perspective, what if you play with no fans? How weird will that be? Or is it, and I know that your job is to block out all that stuff anyway, but they're still there. So how is that something that'll be, I mean, I know point spreads and all that we give 3 points to the home team and all that crud, whatever they do, but is that something where it's going to be, I mean, obviously be different, but it will be so tough to overcome home field, away, whatever, because there's nobody there.
Yeah, you're not going to have those fans. You're not going to be kicking into the net, or the quarterback's not going to be, studying on his Microsoft Surface and people just in his ear like crazy, just screaming the entire time. It's just going to be silent. But I guess if I could argue both sides, it would be really no different than like a day of practice. Practice is completely silent, unless most teams have speakers out there now pumping music or crowd noise. But it's one of those things I think if I had to guess, speaking for myself, if you said right now, would you rather have a football season with no fans
Right.
or just have nothing at all? I'd be like, of course, like let's play. Cause everyone always talks about how many billions of dollars go into this direct TV deal. So it's just like, yeah, everyone's watching at home anyways. I know we're fighting that. Like, is it better to go to a game or be at home? So it's one of those things. It's just like, if that's allowed, if we can be on the field and play in front of no fans. Like I feel like I heard something on SportsCenter or maybe it was on Good Morning America. They talked about how colleges are going to struggle more financially with no fans in the stadium because it's just a bigger chunk of that pie.
Right.
I think the NFL is only maybe like fans in the stadium are like 10 to 15%, whereas college might be like 30. I'm just throwing
Yeah,
numbers
but I
out there. I
understand.
feel
Yeah.
like that's what I heard. So,
Well, you look at some place like Ohio Stadium where you're shoehorning in 95,000 people a weekend,
yeah,
and opposed to say Cincinnati or Cleveland or Indianapolis, whatever, the stadium doesn't even have half that capacity.
yeah,
And so your revenue is being driven by the TV money more than it is by who's come to the stadium.
yeah,
But is there that level of intensity? You see a guy make a go for a first down, and he's playing to the crowd,
yeah.
or makes a stack, he's playing to the crowd. Does that play into the game itself, or if there's no crowd, you don't go, I got a first. Oh, yeah, no one else cares if I got a first down. Will that take away from that, or is that just a fan's point of view?
Well, I mean, if you pull up any video of a running back or a receiver breaking loose, and then it's just a foot race, I mean, to hear that crowd roar, I could argue all day that they're like adrenaline just has to pump more than just complete silence and
Right.
coaches yelling on the sidelines, teammates yelling and stuff. Like there's got to be a little bit more push to that. So even as a kicker, you put me out on the field and say, all right, no wind, beautiful day, you got to hit a 63-yarder. There's going to be a few more yards on it if there's a crowd out there.
Right.
You just have that feeling. And so, yeah, I feel like that would definitely play a part. But, looking back on the financial part of all this, what just I feel like crushes me is the fact that I want to try to support like the local community as much as possible, just to see the restaurants and the bars just getting
Right.
nobody coming in. I can't imagine what you would bring in financially on just on a Sunday in Cincinnati, just people going to bars or the varsity club, something like that. It's just that is where I just, it just makes you sad to think about.
Yeah.
You hope something can be figured out, and it you can just I think just sit back and really just have high hopes.
Well, it's like you said, you're in Upper Arlington now, and I know that community, how that is a very social community, and I mean, I can just imagine going down the street and like, well, nobody's out here.
Yeah.
That's just got to be hard to imagine.
Yeah, especially a sunny day. Like
Right.
people try to get out and get as many walks as possible, or find a way to get a little exercise or get out of your house. But from what I've seen, just around here, it seems like everyone is being very respectful of the guidelines. And now I say what I've seen. My wife goes to the store like once every week and a half or 2 weeks, and I don't really leave the house much. I go kick 3 times a week at a park, but that's about it. That's the only interaction I have. So.
Well, I used to play tennis over at Northern Park, so that's the idea of there was always something going on over there.
Yeah.
Somebody rollerblading or playing softball or something. And I can't imagine this time of year other than snow, I can't imagine there not being anyone there at all. So
Yeah. And it really breaks your heart a little bit just to see what this is doing. And you don't want to be too selfish, because you just sit and think like, when's this going to end? But then if you watch the news or watch TV, and just to see people like, really struggling, because it's just one of those things that I'm very fortunate in the business that I'm in, that I've done it for a long time. I wouldn't be working right now anyways. It's April. I wouldn't be getting paid anything, but you just don't want to see anybody having a tough time with this financially. And then add on top of it, being afraid of getting sick. Some people have 0 symptoms and some people are dying from it. It really breaks my heart to see it.
Well, let me take a step back, because I have one question I didn't ask you. Now, when you were in high school, you were teammates with AJ Hawk, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, have you ever compared notes of how you got from A to B? You said that you weren't initially thinking of being a football player. I'm sure he was probably thinking of being a football player, in his crib. So when you get from, okay, we're both going to Ohio State. are your experiences going from Centerville to Ohio State the same, or are you looking at he's going to go be crazy linebacker guy, and I've got to go win my job here? Is that kind of just weird, or is it kind of, okay, we're coming from the same place, we understand each other?
I think it's more of we come from the same place and understand each other. I think Centerville was always just a bunch of kids that, like, it wasn't the most talent that was brought into that school, but it was really ingrained within us. Just hard work was just literally number one. It's just like, I don't care if we lose every game, we're going to work and be ready to go. And, getting up very, very early, like 5 a.m. workouts in the summer, it was tough, but it's one of those things I feel like still to this day, it shaped me to who I am as a player and even as a father. But it's just, I think he would probably say the same kind of things, like his foundation in Centerville. But AJ was one of those guys. He was a year behind me in school, but he always played up. So when I started in 6th grade, he was a 5th grader on my team. And I mean, he could have started on the 8th grade team. The kid, he was so unbelievably talented. He was just one of those guys like, well, here's everybody in 6th grade. And then, there's AJ, who's just above and beyond anybody when it comes to every bit of athleticism and talent. And same thing was in high school. And then he got in college, but he actually came into Ohio State. There were some pretty highly recruited guys that came in with him and that got so much attention from, all the websites and things like that. But he came in and I think ended up starting not after a long time and created the career that he's had, and then went on to have a great NFL career with the Super Bowl ring.
Well, and that's the pinnacle. One of the things that from all these conversations I'm getting is that, as you said, you came in as a freshman and there was somebody ahead of you. They just didn't hand you the job. From again, Butler Benota, which we did the last interview with, it's like there were 7 former or future NFL running backs in that running back room with you.
Yeah.
And you hear that, and I guess you know it, but you don't really think about it as a fan. You go, oh, okay, oh, yeah, okay, there are a lot of guys there. And then we see the national championship team and all the talent that's there. The competition, and I think that plays out in the real world, and I got that as a student as well. You just didn't walk into University Hall and go, I want an A. You actually had to earn your way through to get your degree. And the competition is something that I think you carry on with you in everything you do.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, like when you talk to some of these kids now, like how tough it is, the whole recruiting process, the different rules. And if a kid doesn't get offered after his sophomore year in high school, it makes it seem like that school's not even interested in him.
Right.
And that kind of competition that's going on, I guess it would also create a student, a player who kind of maybe finds a little, obviously not every kid, but maybe there's going to be a little entitlement there because every single person is telling you how great you are and how great you're going to be. And then you show up and it's just like, whoa, I'm not the only one that got treated like this. Like these guys are good. And you get there and you realize like, okay, I'm still on a huge uphill climb. I haven't made it to the top yet. And I think the coaches do a great job of making sure you succeed and help their team out as well.
Well, and that's the thing that we talk about sometimes, again, as fans of, he's transferring. Why is he transferring? Because, as you said, I may have been told something that may have been true, but when I got there, I felt like this should be my job. I shouldn't have to fight for it. We're looking at Joe Burrow, who is probably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, who got beat out by several people. Mm-hmm. And they wore chopped liver as well. And to understand that, to me, hey, that's not a bad thing. I wish he wouldn't have transferred, obviously, but I understand the reason for it. I only have so many years to play. Yeah. And if I'm not going to play, there's no telling if Dwayne's going to stay around for another year or two. If I'm not going to play here, I might as well play someplace. So, But again, when you came in, those options probably weren't as readily available. Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, it's fun to have these debates with people, especially people that have so much passion. When a guy wants to transfer, a guy just might be like, you know what, we're going to whatever bowl, not in the playoff. Like, I got to think about my career. Like I can easily argue both sides. Like, yeah, this is your last game. You want to be there with your teammates, but it's like, yeah, but I also have the potential to be a top 10 pick in the draft, and
Right.
I could go play in the NFL. Like I forget his name. Is it Jalen Smith, the linebacker for the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Went to Notre Dame. I mean, disgusting what happened to his knee. I think that was the Fiesta Bowl, right?
Right. Exactly.
Was it a playoff game? I don't think it was.
No, I don't think it was, but I think it was like the Fiesta Bowl or something like that. Right.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but he was a freak in college.
Right.
And of course, yeah, he's an amazing football player, but everyone's going to hold that against him, which is like, if you remember the hit, it wasn't even anywhere near his fault. He didn't do anything wrong, but it makes you wonder, what if he wasn't playing in that game?
Willis McGahee.
Yeah. What if Willis McGahee didn't play in that game?
Yeah.
Like, that hit was so bad and so violent. And I don't know if you remember that game. I feel like he started maybe a little slow, but he was coming.
Yeah.
He was going up, and then boom, he goes out. I remember when he went down thinking like, I mean, the guy was doing unbelievable. And obviously that's a national championship game.
Right. But the idea is still the same, right?
What if he tore his hamstring in practice on Tuesday?
Right.
You just never know.
And you never know, right?
He never shred his knee, and it's just, I'm terrible. I could just argue both sides. I can't pick a side. It's like paying college athletes. I can't pick a side. Like I just want everyone to win.
Well, it makes sense both ways, and that's what I do. Unfortunately, I'm right down the middle, because I think, okay, well, but then that's a good argument too, or that makes it. I'm right with you there. It's it's kind of that. It's from a fan point of view. You're thinking, we had actually Cheryl Bowes on, not Nick or Joey, but we had Cheryl on, and it was the idea of, okay, and I never brought it up because I wasn't sure how to, ask the question, but what did you think about Nick not finishing the season?
He was my example.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect example.
Yeah, and it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's hurt and he can go train with his brother, but you want him there just in case he can get. Yeah, I don't know. It's an individual thing, but it's not an individual thing. Yeah.
It's tough when you're talking about. I mean, if he keeps playing the way he played this year, he's going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. He's going to win a Super Bowl. The guy was in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Like, what if he shredded his knee in, I don't know, at Northwestern? He just got a bad block or chipped a bone in his back and he's done, or his neck, and it's just like, now look at him. I mean, the kid, it's just.
Or just try to play through something that, instead of just taking the time off and healing, he tried to play through it and made it worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what if your performance goes down? You're like, well, coach is asking you, hey, why'd you start out so hot? Did you get, to me, that's laziness. Like, what happened to you? It's like, no, I have something going on in my abs or whatever it is.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not playing to my full. It's like, oh, okay, good one. Like, good. Now you make excuses.
Right.
It's like going through what I've gone through in the last 15 years, having an NFL career. I think I'm more on the side of take care of yourself. You need to, at the end of the day, the older you get, it doesn't matter what business you're in, no one is going to look out for you like you are. It's the older you get, it's more individual. Business gets more like, hey, I need you to go out and do your job and you'll get paid to do it.
Well, that brings us full circle to really where we are right now, to this particular day and time. That, okay, I'm going to go inside and be safe.
Yeah.
And if the business suffers, well, it's not going to suffer anymore if I go out and get sick, if I'm exposed to all that's going on. Now, if you're quote unquote essential, and you're taking all the precautions, I get that. But as you said, you haven't been to the store, your wife does that. If you go to the store now, to the grocery store, for example, they've got people that have been working, 40, 50, 75 hours straight, it seems like, and I get that we need to be there to get what we need because it's essential. But at some point you got to think, okay, this lady, I saw her when I was here last week and she looked like she was going to fall over then.
Yeah.
And give somebody a day off, shorten your hours, do something, because hey, I can show up at 3 a.m. if I have to, because I'm not doing anything. You know, if you say we've changed the hours, change the hours. You know, I get where they're coming from, but you can't run people into the ground. Yeah. And as you're saying, now the business is going to suffer anyway. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's my little soapbox moment for the day. So,
yeah, it's tough. It's so tough to see. I would like to see it end as soon as possible. Just mainly not for a fear of getting sick, and there's always that fear, but it's just a huge reason. Just get people back to work and get
back to normal. Yeah. So. Well, Mike, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on. I'll let you know how we cut it up and get you all the links and all that stuff. Okay. Anything else that you would like to throw out there for the Buckeye fans that are thinking, hey, I saw that guy play and he's still playing. How's that possible?
Nothing else really. It's always fun to talk to people, and the first thing they say is like, hey, how long you been out? Like 9-10 years? So like going on 16 years, and it always makes people be like, don't tell me that. It just makes me feel old. So it's a lot of fun being. I just turned 38, so last year being 37, and having teammates. I had a teammate in New England. He was very young rookie, and we went to a movie because I was there by myself in a hotel. So just like the rookies, they're not married, they don't have wives and kids, like probably not, so they have the same free time that I do. And I think he said his mom and dad were like 42 and 43 years old, and I was just like, he was like, why, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 37. So it's fun to be at that point when some of these guys are you're getting closer and closer to their parents' age.
It's weird, but you found a way to make it work. And as a Buckeye fan, you're like, whenever you pop up on the screen, it's like, hey, that's the guy. So we appreciate what you do.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Enjoy your day.
All right, you too.